The Successful Servant Leader podcast is all about the pioneer woman on her unique journey of becoming and being who God has called her to be. The divine connection between the wealth mindset and success in every area of our lives can no longer be denied. Successful Servant Leader teaches us how to increase our confidence and strategically and effectively serve while in the pursuit of success in our lives, our faith, and our businesses. I'm your host, Victoria Grace, and welcome to the show. Hello, family. Thank you so much for being a part of this movement and tuning in to this episode. I am so glad that you're here. Of course, go ahead and give yourself a huge pat on the back for intentionally choosing to be a part of this episode that will level all of us up spiritually, personally, and professionally. If you're new here, welcome. Go ahead and make sure that you hit that subscribe button on whatever app you're listening on. You will get a fresh episode on either the wealthy place, healthy behavior change, and current topics related to the modern day servant leader and the modern day pioneer woman every single week. I have to say it, you guys, happy new week. I pray that your last week was off the chain. And if it wasn't, let's do what we can together to make sure that this week is. You guys know that this podcast is all about the pursuit and daring ourselves to engage, daring ourselves to tap in, daring ourselves to go after that thing, right? Whatever it may be, because it's different for each and every one of us, but to go after that thing that God has put on the inside of us to birth out in this earthen vessel. And so I'm just so happy that you're here. I'm super excited. God is putting us through changes. I know that you guys are going through changes. And so I don't think that it's a coincidence that we're right here, right now, talking about visualizing the mission. If you missed part 1 of Visualize the Mission, go back and check that out. It is the episode before this one, but I don't think that it is a coincidence, right? I know that he's moving, changing, and shifting us. And I just want to remind you right here, right now in this season to be comfortable and be okay with the move and the shift and the change. Okay. With that said, I do want to announce something really quickly, just a little bit of tea, okay? Just a little bit of tea so that you guys can already start to get prepared. This is me just dropping a little bit of tea, just a little hint of what's to come. There will be some changes with this podcast, not major, but kind of major, not huge, but kind of huge. However, the mission is going to remain the same. You are going to get a fresh episode every single week on either the wealthy place, healthy behavior change, and current topics related to the modern day servant leader and the modern day pioneer woman every single week. Okay. That is not changing and that is not going anywhere. So I just want to drop that little bit of hint, just that little bit of tea. Okay. Really quickly. I just kind of want you guys to be along with me for the ride and be okay with me as I go through growing pains, right? You guys have been with me on this journey, right? With this RSS feed. Okay. Since October 2020. Now, some of you have been with me since before October 2020. We had 2 other podcasts. Okay. If you remember, you remember. If you know, you know. We had 2 other podcasts. We started those in 2018 and 2019. And then in 2020, God solidified it. And now in 2023, he said he want to do just a little bit of something different, just a little different, not too far off from what you guys already know though. So I just wanted to drop that little hint. And before we get into the podcast, I do have some piping hot tea. Of course, that was just a little bit of piping hot tea. Okay. But I do have some piping hot tea for you guys. So listen on up. This Thursday, February 16th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be hosting a free online training for healthcare practitioners, service providers, brands, and aspiring entrepreneurs to help them discover my easy method to increase their impact and their income by turning their expertise into a thriving service-based business. You guys, I'm super excited about this. Inside the training, we are going to go over so many different things, okay? So many things to get you on track to build that business God's way, to build that ministry God's way. We are going to do some vision mapping of the brand and business that you've been called to create. We're going to build your signature offer that will have a clear-cut transformation in 100 times, okay? Your impact and your income. Trust me, I know. And then we are also going to kickstart your service-based business and brand, both online and offline. I understand that I have people that listen to me, that follow me, that have brick and mortar type businesses, specifically my healthcare practitioners. And then I have other healthcare practitioners who just want online practices, right? Anything that you are trying to do, God can get it done. Please know that it can get done God's way. Please do not think that you are not qualified. Please do not think that you don't have access to the resources. If you are a listener of this podcast and you're a part of the Dare to Pursue community, there are resources. If you think that there's something that I don't know, reach out. And I promise you, if I don't know it, right? If I don't know about it, I know somebody who does know about it that can help you. Remember, I've been saying for a minute, this is the time and the season to where if God is telling you to do something, you have to move. And it's only right that I get into alignment as well and make sure that I offer services. And this is a free training, by the way, but that I offer things to you guys that are going to help you in your pursuit. If you are not pursuing the thing that God has called you to do, are you truly pursuing, or are you pursuing in a way that is selfish and not that is Holy Spirit led? Right? So I pray that if this is for you, if you are an aspiring entrepreneur, if you already have a brand, and a personal brand counts as well. If you're a service provider, a healthcare worker, or a healthcare practitioner, or somebody just interested in the healthcare industry. I know sometimes I have to say that because healthcare practitioners can fall under any category. That can be from a direct care provider and CNA to a doctor and a nurse practitioner. Okay. So please know and understand that. But if this is you, and you have knowledge and expertise that you know God is telling you to move to the masses and to get out to the masses, I invite you to register for this training. Of course, you know that the link will be available in the show notes. So let's get right into this week's episode. As you guys can see, and as I told you last week, this will be Visualize the Mission Part 2. So last week, we really honed in on this idea and the concept of visualization. We honed in on understanding that, mindfulness and self-awareness was God's idea. And I have to say it again. If you are at this point of this podcast, maybe you're new, or maybe you just need to go back, I implore you to go back and listen to the previous episodes of this podcast, because it was all about aligning our minds. Now God is moving us and transitioning us to finding our voice. So if you haven't aligned your mind with God's word, it will be difficult for you to find your voice. There is always a system and a formula. Everything that God does is by divine systems and protocol. I know some of us, we have a hard time following directions. I know some of us, we have a hard time, just going along with the protocols and the systems. Raise your hand, because I'm raising my hand, okay? I understand. I get it. But when it comes to this, the pursuit of purpose, the pursuit of you, and the pursuit of God, you've got to get yourself in alignment with how He wants you to do it. It was a reason that He told me to go over and break down His prayer, which can be found in Matthew chapter 6. If you missed that episode, go back. It's titled The Lord's Prayer. He tells us how to do everything. And for some reason, I believe specifically for us Americans, because we're so comfortable with, we have life, liberty, we have access to kind of just make choices and do things the way that we want to do it. We kind of get beside ourselves when it comes to the things of God, and we think we could just do it how we want to do it. And so I just implore you, if you have not done the work to align your mind, go back to the previous episodes on this podcast. If you don't know nothing else, go back to part 1 of Visualize the Mission, which, like I said, was posted and published last week, and that will get you right on track to where you need to be. Okay. So last week, we really focused on this idea of visualization. I talked a bit about how visualizing the mission is directly connected to visualizing the brand. And as we prepared to end last week's episode, I mentioned we have been branded. Each and every one of us has been branded by God. And so what is a brand? Can't remember if I looked over it or talked about it. I definitely talked about it, but I'm going to talk about it again. Okay. So you know and understand, a brand is a noun. We know that a noun is a person, place, thing, or idea, and a brand is also a verb. Get this. A brand is a noun, and it is also a verb. In noun form, it says a particular identity or image regarded as an asset. Okay. Then it says a mark, and it can be on livestock. In the old days, right? They would put a mark on criminals. They would put a mark on slaves. If you know that, I believe it's Paul. He said all the time in many of his letters that he's a slave to Jesus Christ. Okay. So when you think of this word slave, I understand that there can be negative connotations to this, but I need us to start thinking outside of the box and stop just thinking about the negative experience that a lot of us, people of color, Black people, minorities, have experienced at the hands of other individuals just because of our skin color. Okay. So I'm going to say this again. A brand is also a mark that can be put on livestock. Back in the old days, again, it would be on criminals and or slaves. But if we think about our man Paul, right, who wrote most of the New Testament, he said it all the time that he was a slave to Jesus Christ. Okay. Then it says also an identifying mark. So a mark that identifies. It says to mark indelibly. I always have trouble saying this word ever since I found this out, but this is where we come into the verb form of the word brand. It says to mark indelibly. The word indelibly means in a way that cannot be removed or forgotten. Please tell me you guys get this. In a way that cannot be removed or forgotten. And last but certainly not least, it says a distinctive design. So if I have told you that you've been branded, you are a brand, you've been branded by God, you need to know, number one, that you are an asset. You are an asset. Number two, there's a mark on you that you probably can't see, a mark in the spirit realm that says this one right here belongs to God. This one right here is an inheritance or an inheritor. Y'all let me know which one is right. To the throne of Jesus Christ. You let me know, okay, that you get this. Also, you have an identifying mark that says you're a slave to Jesus Christ, period, point blank. I'm going to say it like that. And then it says a mark. So you're marked in such a way that cannot be removed. You cannot be removed as the royal priesthood, as a child of God. You cannot be removed or forgotten. You have a distinctive design on you and in you because you've been branded by God. Now, I got just a little bit ahead of myself, but before I go any further, I want to go back very quickly to this word mission. Obviously, the title of this episode and the episode from last week is Visualize the Mission. The actual teaching that I taught on this is Visualize the Mission, Visualize the Brand. And if you did not know, this is from the 3 principles of building from scratch that God gave me. Like, he gifted me with this, and this is what I have been using to teach others how to build their businesses as well as how to build their faith. So step number 1 is visualize the brand, aka visualize the mission. Step 2 is build the brand. And step 3 is to kickstart the brand. It's literally the formula that I've been using since 2019. It is the way that Dare to Pursue is set up is in this exact formula, like in this exact certain parts of Dare to Pursue is visualize, then you have build, then you have kickstart / emerge, but it's all in alignment. So this is what I need you guys to know and understand. So really quickly, let's look at this word mission. We talked last week about visualization, and I just told you now about branded, and that you are branded by God. It is a noun and it is a verb. You have been branded by God, which means you have this identification, but you are also called to do. Okay. Now, mission, verb, off rip. It's nothing else except for a verb. It says an important assignment that must be carried out. It typically involves some type of travel. Dare to Pursue is all about movement, all about moving, okay? An important assignment that must be carried out. Now, this is just the worldly definition, but if we think about it, we know that when we read the scriptures, everybody that was sent out, every biblical figure of importance had some type of assignment that they were supposed to carry out. And if they didn't carry out, they either suffered the wrath of God, or he gave them multiple chances like Jonah, right? Either way, a mission is an important assignment that must be carried out. The next step says it's an expedition. Next, it says a vocation or a calling to go out into the world and disseminate or spread. I added this to myself. I made my own little definition, but a vocation or calling to go out into the world. This is from the world's definition, and to disseminate or spread your faith. I added on the your faith. I don't care if you are spreading your faith through business. I don't care if you're spreading your faith through ministry. I don't care if you're spreading your faith and you're just a public speaker. I don't care if you're spreading your faith while you go to school every day and work, right? There is ways to do that, even if they banned, right? Christianity, I don't know. Okay, I don't know all the terms, but even if it's banned from praying in school, I have a friend right now who works in the school district, and she's been praying, right? She's been praying. She's been doing what needs to be done. But out of nowhere, the people that are on her board with her come to her and they say, hey, we used to pray before school every single day, and then COVID happened and then we stopped and blah, 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 but we want to bring it back. We would love for you to join us because we know you're a Christian too. Like, these are the things that can be done. These are the things that God is calling you to do. If he's put you in specific places and in specific positions, he's expecting you to go out. Each and every one of us has a mission / an important assignment that must be carried out. It doesn't matter where you are. If you work at a grocery store, or if you work at a hospital, or if you work at a school, or if you're a stay-at-home mom, you are called to carry out an assignment. All of us, each and every one of us. And then the last definition that I have for mission says a strongly felt ambition, aim, or calling. So when I talk to you guys about Dare to Pursue, and I always say that thing on the inside of you that just won't go away, that gut feeling that just won't go away. A lot of the times that's God trying to give you a hint like, hey, this is where I'm calling you to. Hey, answer the phone for me. When you keep seeing billboards and social media ads concerning whatever it is that God keeps bringing to you that you're trying to deny, or you don't even realize it's God trying to tell you, or you're saying this has nothing to do with me being, I don't know, a chemical engineer, right? And God calls you to help people write and publish books. This is real, y'all. The woman that I tell you that I share from time to time, her name is Chanel E. Martin. She's a whole chemical engineer. And God called her to teach people how to write and publish books. You have got to get to the point to where you're like, I don't care how crazy it sounds, but I want to follow you, God, so much to the T, because I know that what you have for me is more than whatever degree path I took. I know what you have for me is more than whatever my parents had planned for me. I know that what you have for me is better than anything the world could ever give me or do for me. This is why we start with visualization, because if you can't visualize, and this is why we start with aligning your mind, because if you haven't aligned your mind, you won't be able to visualize. And if you cannot visualize, you will not be able to find your voice. The way that God speaks to each and every one of us is different. However, when he speaks, he needs you to be he doesn't need you. Let me take that back. He works with each and every one of us, okay? But he expects for us to get to a point to where our voice becomes his voice and we become his mouthpiece. If you've ever joined my prayer calls that I do every single Wednesday, shameless plug, every single Wednesday, the information and access information is in the show notes. We do a prayer at least once a month. It is called the Prayer of Activation of Spiritual Warfare, because I just like to cover myself and you guys in that way. And so within that prayer, we started off by declaring and decreeing that we are God's official legislators and ambassadors. We are warriors for God. We are well-watered gardens. Do you understand the power behind those words? These are not just average everyday words. The power behind those words, you have got to believe that. You've got to trust. That's why you have to align your mind. That's why you have to then do the work to be able to find your voice. And that's where we are right now. But that is why everything is done according to divine systems of protocol. So we talked about visualization. We talked about mission really quickly here. And we talked about branding. And before I move on, I want you to take this into consideration. When I was a kid, even now, I've always been like a gamer, like tomboy type of girl. Loved to be outside playing sports. Loved my video game. I used to have an Xbox. And so I love to play games, okay? And so this is what God kind of put into my head. Just like a video game, we each have missions that we have to pass. We each have missions. And each of those missions, which are many assignments that we will go through and that we will experience throughout the pursuit, they will have checkpoints slash tests, right? You know, when you're playing a game, you have to get to a certain checkpoint before you can go to the next level. You have to get to a certain point before you are going to be allowed to experience that next level of glory when it comes to God as well. You have to pass the test, right? You got to beat, I don't know, the big monster of the game of this level before you can go to the next step. And so because God gave me that revelation, it's been easier for me to kind of process the pursuit and like process life. So just like a video game, the mission will have checkpoints. And again, the mission is coupled with many assignments, right? Because even within missions, if you guys remember the games from like back in the day, okay, like the 2000s, early 2000s, then you know you had your mission, but you also had like many checkpoints. And so you could play. So I used to play this game with Pac-Man, and it was like Pac-Man World or something like that. And so you had a level that you were on that you had to pass the entire level, but you also had checkpoints within that level or within that mission. So you could go and make it to this checkpoint and then make it to the next checkpoint, and then you might do something and you die, right? They'll take you back to the previous checkpoint. You don't have to start it all the way over, but they'll take you back to the previous checkpoint, with like the last point where you saved the game kind of thing. You get where I'm going with this? It's the same thing with the pursuit. It's the same thing with life. Now, I know the way God does it is a little bit different. Like, I don't know if we fail or make a mistake, he's going to take us all the way back or anything like that. But if we look at it like that, I believe it will be more helpful to us to actually get through and finish the assignments at hand, to work harder at saying, you know what? God, I am ready to go to the next level. I'm sick of being stuck right here. If you guys ever played a game and you was stuck on a level and you could not figure out how to win, I know like Grand Theft Auto was one of those games too, where people will literally have videos on the internet like, this is how you pass this level. Like, this is how you pass this checkpoint. This is how you do it. Because people get sick and tired of being stuck at one level. And I believe that for a lot of us, because we're talking about visualizing the mission, a lot of us are sick of being stuck at this one level. We're ready to move to the next checkpoint. But God is like, I need you to submit the assignment first. I need you to do the work and strategize and figure out, okay, how do I finish the task at hand? And for some of us, it's just a matter of starting to do, and he'll give you, I think for most of us, not just some of us, but if you just start to do, I've shared multiple times on this platform that when I started to do, God started to move. When I wasn't doing, he wasn't moving. And I know a lot of us were like, I'm waiting for the perfect time and I'm trying to just see what happens and blah, blah, blah. I'm waiting for another confirmation. You guys already know I've talked about it 50 million times. I told God for 2022, I don't need 11 confirmations. I'm just going to do it. I'm not about to keep asking you, is that what you said? I would rather do it and be wrong about doing it rather than not doing it and be wrong that I didn't do it. And now I'm still stuck in the same place that I was before. And honestly, in all situations, this podcast, oh my goodness, I can't wait to share with you guys where this podcast is going. But if I had decided not to start this podcast because I was stuck on, I don't know what the name should be, I don't know what I should talk about, I wouldn't be where I am right now. I would not be where I am right now. And so many of you are still stuck in the place of, I don't want to start the podcast. I don't want to start the YouTube channel. I don't want to start that ministry. I don't want to start talking. I don't know what to say. There's no reason for me to do that right now because I'm not in that place yet. There's another lie from the enemy. I don't want to do it because I'm not where I'm telling people that I'm trying to get to. Get what I'm saying? I've been talking about daring to pursue, manifesting with Christ, living life in the realm of unlimited possibilities. And I promise you, when I first started talking about it, I hadn't experienced nothing. I hadn't seen nothing. I hadn't witnessed nothing. I mean, I might have seen some things like, oh yeah, God saved me from myself. But at that time, when I first started talking about it, I hadn't experienced it yet. I just know that that's what he was showing me and telling me to talk about. I didn't realize that everything that I've talked about was an entire accumulation of what other people need to know on how to align their mind, and what he had been giving me while I was talking about all the episodes, over almost 80 episodes about aligning your mind. Okay. While I was doing that and coming on here and talking with you guys, he was already giving me the next steps over the last 2 years of finding your voice and kickstarting, finding your voice and emerging. I promise y'all, some of you need to just do. And the answers that you're looking for God will show them to you like that ram in the bush, literally. So to kind of close out this episode, I just want to give you guys these 3 steps to visualize the mission and visualize the brand. Again, it does not matter if you don't necessarily have a brand or a business yet for many of you, or a ministry yet for many of you. The point here is, and I have to say this, is we are all children of God. We all have an assignment. I've said it on this platform. I've said it on TikTok here recently. We've all been called to serve a very specific person for a very specific purpose. You've got to do the work to figure out who that very specific person is and what that very specific purpose is, but you'll never figure out if you never do. If you're always sitting around waiting for a confirmation, or always just sitting around like, God will make it happen, God will do it. God also needs you to do your part. I've said it many times. Number 1, his word says that my people perish for a lack of knowledge. One way that we operate in a place of ignorance or lack of knowledge is thinking that God is just going to magically do something. I'm not saying that he cannot, and I'll take the word magic out of it because, again, he's omniscient and omnipresent. However, it also says that faith without works is dead. You have to match your faith with your works. You cannot say that you believe and you trust, but when he tells you to, I don't know, pay a tithe of $10,000, you're like, I don't trust that much. It doesn't add up. Okay. That was just an example. However, I want to give you guys these steps to visualize the mission and visualize the brand, because it's going to be a segue into everything else we are probably going to talk about for the rest of this year on the show. So, number 1 is that you have to understand the power of your testimony and your story. Remember, you've been branded by God. You, as the individual, you are a brand. And so if we are saying the first step to visualizing the mission and visualizing the brand is understanding the power of our testimony and our story, then you have to know that Scripture directly aligns with this. In Revelation 12 and 11, I know I brought this up here recently. I don't know if it was on the podcast or during prophetic planning, but Revelation 12 and 11, I'm going to read from the King James Version. It says, "And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death." And so these people, this is Revelation, right? This is them coming up against the beast of Revelation. They were able to overcome the beast. They were able to overcome the Antichrist. They were able to overcome the enemy by the blood of the Lamb. Of course, that's what we need first and foremost, and by the power of their testimony and by the power of who they are. I actually am in the process of, I haven't posted it just yet because I'm kind of getting into a posting schedule on TikTok, but there was this sound, and the sound, when I saw somebody else post it, they posted it in reference to the fact that they said, when people asked me why I don't just quit being a doctor. And the sound was like, I can't quit because then all of the damage that I went through would be for nothing. If you follow me on TikTok, then you'll hear that pretty soon here. You'll see it. But I ended up making my own version of that. And I said, when people ask me why I can't continue to pursue God's way, why I continue to share my story, why I continue to talk aloud and speak aloud, even when people might not like it or regardless of what somebody might say, because I understand the power of my testimony. I understand the power of my story. And when it comes to branding and business and things like that, yes, there will be moments where we share our testimony, but there will be other moments where we are really supposed to share a story. That's a whole nother conversation, but I just really wanted to get you guys to understand that piece. They overcame their enemy. They overcame their generational curses. You can overcome everything that you've been through in your life by the blood of the Lamb and by the power of your testimony. So number one, understand the power of your story and your testimony. Again, this goes back to understanding that there's life and death in the power of our tongues. If we allow what has happened to us, if we allow the experiences that we've had, if we allow the expertise that we have to come out of our mouths, we can use the Holy Spirit, or the Holy Spirit can use us, right? We can have the Holy Spirit that's on the inside of us speak to that very specific person for that very specific person so that we can then become in alignment with whatever God's will is for our lives. I mean, it's a full circle effect, you guys. So that's number one. Number two, and it has a few little bullet points under it, but number two says, remember where all vision, wisdom, strategy, and blessings flow from. You cannot forget this. As you start to share your testimony, as you start to have a voice that it goes viral, I just declare and decree right now that you have a viral voice, okay? But as you start to declare and decree and talk and speak and do whatever it is that God is leading you to do, you've got to remember where all of your vision, all of your wisdom, all of your strategy, and where all of your blessings flow from. You have to remember how you even got the testimony in the first place. It's because of God, okay? So if you want answers or clarity, you always need to go to God. Do not forget who put you in the position that you are going to, or who put you in the position that you're in now. For those of you who have already started the process, right? Do not forget, okay? You cannot say that you were not knowledgeable about these things that look like they're God, but they actually deny the power thereof, because you're a part of this podcast. And I've talked about it on many, many, many occasions. Okay. So you have no excuse as to why you should not ever not be in the will of God, basically, when it comes to how to get clarity, how to hear from Him, how to meditate, how to manifest all the things. You should be in perfect alignment in the way in which He calls us to do these things. Because remember, mindfulness, meditation, manifestation, self-awareness, all the things, these were all God's idea, and the enemy took it and twisted it for himself. Okay. So if you need answers or clarity, you need to make sure that you go to God. Next, you need to get over your limiting beliefs. Okay. Actually, that was supposed to be first, but under the little bullet points. However, you get what I'm saying. Get over your limiting beliefs. Okay. These limiting beliefs, these roadblocks is what I call them, mental roadblocks. They hold you hostage. They keep you stuck and stagnant. If you have a mind that's not able to expand and at least visualize, again, that's why we have to align our minds, right? If you have not done this, it will be very difficult for you to see a place that's outside of what your natural eyes can see. Right now, your natural eye is seeing, maybe you live paycheck to paycheck, maybe you're homeless. I don't know what you're going through. And I just declare and decree right now that anybody listening to this podcast has financial blessings and they're not homeless in the name of Jesus. Okay. But I don't know what you're going through and what your natural eyes are seeing, but you have to get over your limiting beliefs, because they will hold you hostage and stuck in that place that you're trying to get away from, in that place that you're trying to be delivered from. You will not be able to get out of it. You need to also get over your fear. Get over your fear, any fears that you can think of, but specifically get over your fear of the mantle / giving your yes to God and being bold to God. Get over the fear of what comes with that, because doing anything for God is going to be an amazing thing, period, point blank. If you lose some people, they was never meant to be there in the first place. Okay. People look at you crazy. they looked at everybody pretty much crazy who was following God in the Bible. Like we have so many examples, okay? And then you have to get over your worldly view of success and wealth, and you have to subscribe to God's view of success and wealth. So remember, you guys, this all falls under our second point of how to visualize the mission and visualize the brand. Remember where all vision, wisdom, strategy, and blessings flow from. You have to get over your worldly view of success and wealth. That's why I've said it many times on this podcast. When it comes to wealth, I'm talking specifically about mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Because once you get that together, once you get that aligned and in order, all of the wisdom that you have now is going to lead you to a place in which finances won't even be a problem. It's going to lead you to a place in which, okay, this is how I make money, because obviously we need money in this world system. Period. And God knows that. So he's never called you to a place in which you're not supposed to have money. I believe that there are a select few, not as many of us who believe that we are supposed to be in that place. So that was point number 2. And the last point that I'm going to give you guys is something that I never expected that I would even be talking about. And it takes me back to Dare to Pursue. The only way I got the Dare to Pursue outline, those 10 steps, the only way that Dare to Pursue is what it is because I decided to write. Step number 3 to visualize the mission and visualize the brand is write. Write your heart away. Write as God gives you things. And you can write with a physical pen and paper, or you can make a note in your phone and keep it organized. But as God gives you things throughout this process, you need to write it down because you do not want to forget. If I had not wrote down everything from Dare to Pursue, and to be honest, when I think about it, when he first gave me the first step, like dare to pursue you. And when you dare to pursue you, it's like daring to pursue God. I remember vividly, I was like, I don't need to write that down. That's common sense. It makes sense. And then, child, I forgot about it. The God part. And the steps that he gave me for the God part. Let me be clear. Obviously, I already knew God was a part of the whole thing, right? But I forgot the specific steps, but I'm like, I'm not going to forget that. I'm going to remember that. Like, that's simple. And if I have to redo it again, I'm going to remember that. And I end up forgetting, but then it came back to me and now we good, right? We're all good. The trust part. Then, part of Dare to Pursue is daring to bow. And I'm like, daring to bow? What? Some of this stuff is repeats. And it's not. Okay. This is what I was thinking though. I'm like, this is all repeats. I don't need to write that down. Like, I could put that into daring to tear down. It's the same thing. That's literally what I thought. But then God continued to bring it back to me like, no, write this down. And then eventually he put all of it together in the formula that it is. And that's why we have Dare to Pursue. It's why we have what we have right now. If I had not wrote everything down from the jump, regardless of the forgetting part, right? We wouldn't have been able to have challenges. We wouldn't be able to have a boot camp. Writing is going to be so important. And I'm not saying that all of us are called to write books or anything like that, but I am saying that he needs you to write so that you do not forget. He needs you to write so that you have something to refer to. He needs you to write now in 2023. So when he brings you back in 2026, you'll be like, oh yeah, God already gave me this. This is not new. I think I shared a few episodes ago that this actually just happened to me. I was trying to figure out something for my brand for Successful Servant Leader Academy. And I wrote something down, and then out of nowhere, I look in my notes on my phone, and it was, I think, like 2019. I wrote an entire a manuscript. It was so thick, and I read through it, and I'm like, oh, this is not new. This is something I already knew. And so any missing pieces that I had that I was writing in 2022, I was able to take those notes from 2019, like, oh yeah, this fits perfectly right here. I was confused a bit because I didn't know how this matched with that, and boom, I found my note from 2019. So that's the last step, is to write. Number 1, understand the power of your testimony and your story. Number 2, remember where all vision, wisdom, strategy, and blessings flow from. And number 3, write. So that is everything that you need to know in a mini sense to visualize the mission and visualize the brand. And you guys know that we're in this topic of discussion about glory on the YouTube channel. So if you're not connected, make sure that you get connected over there. But I believe that God is about to really expand this idea of visualizing the mission and visualizing the brand. And then we're going to start to move into building and it's going to just be a domino effect. And so I thank you guys so much for being tuned into this podcast. I pray that you share this, right? And visualize the mission part 1 with everybody in your phone. Okay. Share this out. Share this out. If you haven't already, join our Dare to Pursue Facebook group, which will be available to you in the show notes, as well as join the live training. If anything that I said today hit home for you concerning a business that God is calling you to launch and build and do right now, you want to be inside of that training. Okay. You want to be inside of the training. I am going to be giving away all the tips. The thing is, the way these trainings are going to go, I'm going to have a different training every week because you can put everything into one training, but you'll definitely be leaving some things out. And because I want to make sure that you guys have everything that you need, I am going to be spreading it out. And no, there are no replays. So get connected. At least put your name down. So if you happen to miss it and something happens where I'm able to save it, I can send that out to you, but I'll never know if you don't say nothing. If you never do, I'll never be able to do for you. So you got to take the first step. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.